Good afternoon, everyone. If you're watching us live, if you're watching a replay of the event, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining me today on AI Would Agree. Today's conversation is going to be outbound observations with a lady who needs little introduction in the industry, the internet's very own Marianne Withers. Thank you for joining us very much. I can see you're ready for Christmas, Marianne.
Yeah, well, in work we are. At home, absolutely not. I moved last weekend.
Fantastic time to do it. Yeah, plenty of work ahead of you before the big day then.
Oh God, absolutely. There's boxes everywhere, black bags everywhere. And for some reason, I'd organised to go away the weekend after, so nothing's done.
Don't do anything in halves, right?
No.
Fantastic to have you on the show. Apologise for everyone who expected this to happen a couple of weeks ago. We've managed to get here now. I think, to be fair to everyone watching this, it's probably going to be the last one. We might be able to squeeze one more in before Christmas if we're lucky. But I'm not going to confirm that just yet. Watch this space. But if not, we'll resume in the third week of January next year. So I'm looking forward to making it a much more regular show then, and we'll arrange to get something done every single week. It's been fantastic, the impact that we've had from the show so far. Some great comments and feedback from people who've seen the previous events with Alex Mead and Simon Norrie. Must get round to redoing Simon Norrie because unfortunately we crashed LinkedIn 20 minutes before the show kicked off, and we had to record it and send it out as a recorded live stream, which was a little bit bizarre. And apologies for anybody who's had some confusion with this one. When I went to move the time and date of the show, StreamYard, which is the platform I used to record it on, and LinkedIn don't play nicely together, and ended up with two separate events, which neither of them could help me with. So I have put the link in the old event to point to this one. Hopefully everybody's seeing it because there's quite a lot of people that said they were interested. So let's kick it off then. We've got half an hour, 28 minutes now, Marianne. Not that anybody's got any time pressure. So the topic that you picked to discuss was outbound conversations. Outbound, I guess it's a lot of outbound sales traditionally, but what's your experience with outbound? How did you come to have such a strong opinion on it?
Probably because I started in actually doing customer experience for working for the housing department, and whether you're dealing with actually people coming into you over the phone or actually speaking out to them, I've always looked at it that the fact is, whatever the communication level, there should be a complete respectful approach to how you're doing it. And I went and joined an outsource agency, which was part of the Golly Slater Group in Cardiff. And it was there, and there was a lady called Wendy Bailey who was absolutely amazing. Well, she was horrific and amazing at the same time. She was absolutely amazing for kind of her knowledge, her skill, her style, everything was absolutely brilliant. But that was on one day. On the next day, she threatened to put me out of a window once. But I've got a feeling that was probably slightly down to me being a little bit arrogant and cheeky. But then the following day, she bought me a pair of earrings. So it all weighed itself out, really. But I became very passionate from doing that. And I went off to the Thompson Group selling advertising space. And I went under the most fantastic training. You're a month in a room learning how to sell a piece of white paper. No product, nothing, just how to sell and the structure of selling. And no one's ever had to tell me or retrain me, because their training was absolutely second to none at the time. But it was something that I grabbed from the initial time of joining Gollies after doing all this. And I worked on a project which was for British Airways. And the one thing, I'm going to do this an aside, because this is the truth of everything, is that I never wanted to do face-to-face because I always thought I was absolutely ugly. And I really hated doing things face-to-face. So going to work for telemarketing and working on the telephone, I could be whoever I wanted on the telephone. And I could sound the most amazing person in the whole world. And I found using your voice, the intonation, the inflection, just the terminology, I could be Julia Roberts. So the fact is, it was absolutely amazing to me. And so I grabbed onto something from the start that I did it, was that if you actually did this correctly, you could really, really entice people to listen to you and influence them to take them down a journey to make right decisions. So that was the start of it. My view of the industry, like I've said on comments on LinkedIn, there's a lot of good people out there, but I'm sorry, there's a load of crap. And, you know, I don't think there's a point in mucking around about it. And there's no point in going, everyone's absolutely brilliant, because we know it's not true. Even on, you know, Alex talking about the customer experience, why are we at a 20-year all-time low for customer experience if everything is so absolutely perfect out there? And, you know, to me, we talk about customer experience. Well, customer experience is making outbound calls. Let's not go down the avenue that it's all about upfront sales. You know, there's retention, there's renewals. There is so many different avenues of what outbound can be used. And if it's used in the right way, it can be extremely powerful. But the problem is, I think anyway, I would never say that I'm excellent at what I do. What I would say is I'm striving for excellence with the team, putting our heads together and finding ways to add value, to make things better, streamline things, and give the you know, a client the best value that you can. If you go out there, see how many people tell you they're excellent and they're great at what they're doing. So, and I've said before, is that the point that people mix up excellence with mediocrity? Because my excellence means that you're outstanding. And I really don't think at least 40 or 50% of the marketplace are at that level.
Some interesting points there to kind of unpack on a little bit. And I think there's something that you said there really resonated with where we've been going as a business. And our CEO, Jimmy, did a talk at the Expo a couple of weeks back and talked about how customer contact center agents would benefit from being actors and being able to not in a inauthentic way, but in a really original way, become the best version of themselves and be who the customer needs them to be to get the point across that they're trying to make. And it feels like there's a real resonance with what you said there around, you know, you can reimagine yourself almost and be who you want to be or who your customer needs you to be in order to get the job done.
It's about how you're trained, how you're coached, how you're led, because, you know, give people more understanding. You know, a lot of companies do training and they base their training all around normal thing, product, you know, soft skills. If you go to any of the companies out there, whether it's internal or outsourced, they all follow the same kind of modes of training that they will do. And, you know, you look at the modules and they are all exactly the same. How many places do you actually go, especially on a B2B environment, where they actually give you complete understanding of business acumen and give you understanding of why you're doing it? I mean, the same, you know, the fact is with business to consumer, what we do is we treat people, what we do is train, we don't educate. I got taught, back at the time when I was told it, I was young and thought it was a bit cringy, and then realised that actually it's so true, is I got told by MBNA, because I was using the word training, and they said, no, you don't train, you educate people. You train animals, you educate people. And the difficulty in so many places, we look down the avenue of we actually train them. We bring them into a room, we induct them, we give them certain soft skills, and then we do product. That's it. But there's so much more to actually that about educating them of why they're doing it, why they should treat people in the right way. You know, simple things, lots of things on LinkedIn lately. Treat others how you'd like to be treated yourself. Okay, that's not really taught in that kind of skills. And what you're doing is getting a lot of people who, whether they're taking incoming calls or outgoing calls, they're listening to their managers, which you think you should do. But then who trains those managers? And where is it coming down the line? Kind of, especially the outbound skill set of what is the best way of doing this? I mean, I've heard certain people over, let's say, the last year, and it actually scares me, kind of the knowledge, but they're released on the workforce. And basically what they're doing is teaching them, they're training them their opinion, not what is good.
Yeah.
So
what's your thoughts on sort of in that context? What's your thoughts on nature versus nurture for outbound contact center agents? Do you think that some people are more predisposed towards it, and if so, what sort of personalities do you kind of see as being more successful in that environment?
Weirdly, I think it's a perception in people's head whether they can do it or they can't do it. I think there's a lot of good people who are extremely good at inbound who could do it well, but their demeanor and disposition does not allow them, because their perception says they don't want to do outbound. But if you listen to some of the strong inbound people, they've got extremely good communication skills. But the difficulty is you're not going to change their mindset. You might change one or two. My favorite thing that I used to do was when I was doing large credit cards outbound. There was about 85 people on that, and then there was an inbound team of about 40 odd, and you get the people who kind of lost their way on the outbound. So take them off, lift them, stick them on the inbound, and watch them either stay on the inbound or go, oh my God, I'm really bored. Can I now go back to outbound? Yeah. But it's a difficult one, because I think with a lot of people, it's more what the perception in their head tells them they can and can't do than the fact of whether they got the capability or skill, because they may be comfortable in their own arena because it's all inbound and it means it's an incoming call. So it's easier, but actually they've got very, very good skills that could actually move over into outbound fine, but it's just the head telling them no.
Yeah, and I completely see where you're coming from. I think there's a lot of people, like, look, let's be honest, like as human beings, we all have an ability to make relationships, right? And that's ultimately the key to outbound, is being able to build that relationship with the person you're speaking to really quickly to get to the point of what you're trying to do. And when I listen to people like Todd Caponi's a great guy for talking about transparent sales process and how you do that. But ultimately, it's kind of about, you know, having that knowledge that I think to a certain extent, and I don't know whether you'd agree with me, it's a certain extent, it's about believing in what you're doing as well, like feeling that culture from the business that you want to be able to make. Because I think outbound, you've kind of got to share a little bit of you with the customer, with the person that you're trying to reach. And I think B2B is probably a little bit, dare say, easier, more complex, but easier to make that initial contact. B2C requires a certain level of tenacity, and I think unless you kind of really believe in what you're trying to do, whether it's sales, whether it's retention or whatever, then you kind of, that's very obvious to the person that you're speaking to. Is that something that you kind of agree with?
Yeah, I think that's kind of, again, there's a little part of me that does, and there's a big part of me that doesn't. And the reason being is many, many years ago, when I actually worked on the telephone, and I was in Gollies in Cardiff, and we had a timeshare project, and I didn't agree with timeshare. I'm not sure why I didn't agree with timeshare back then, but it's probably like my hate for Rupert Murdoch. It just happened to be. And I said, I don't want to do it. my boss, Wendy, and her husband went, no, Marianne, you're doing it. Mm-hmm. So I went out and I spoke to, was it in the morning, 13 decision makers, and I made 12 appointments. Mm-hmm. And Graham kind of went to me, but you don't believe in it. And I went, no, I can do anything. I said, if I want to sell this, I can sell this. I said, whether moralistically I want to do it is a completely different matter, which means then I can put forward. I said, however, I can do it. So again, it is all about the ability in someone, whether, of course we can do it. If you've got the skill set there, again, it goes back to the mindset of what stops you doing anything. It's your mind most of the time that stops you doing things.
Yeah, and I think especially when you look at, if you look at outbound sales specifically, like sales has a really bad reputation, and I think I'd love to see that change. I'd love to see that outbound sales reputation replaced. It's become a dirty word. Nobody likes to associate themselves with the word sales. Everybody removes the word sales from their title. But ultimately, all we do all day long is sell things to each other, to other people in our family. These might not necessarily be products or services, but we're selling our way, our opinion, what we do. And I think to a certain extent, if you can get your head around that sales isn't a dirty thing, it's about how you approach it that makes it dirty or not. And to your point, there are some horrific, point one, do your research. The amount of people that kind of drop into my inbox trying to outbound me, what we actually do, like exactly what we do. Like, guys, come on. Like, I've got all the love in the world for somebody who's doing a similar role to myself, but do your research, do the basics.
I mean, like the email that I got the other week that basically went, have you not read my other emails? I think you should answer this. Are you telling me you're that busy? And I actually replied back to him, and I just went, one, I think this is extremely rude. I said, considering I believe in outbound, whether it's by email, whether it's by voice, it doesn't really matter. I believe in it absolutely, truly, and passionately. And I went, but to be honest, you're part of the reason why people are having difficulty, because it's just not the way to actually, deal with things. Because I think outbound is a wonderful thing. And if it's done properly, it can be used so much more effectively in organizations. Because the one thing we don't do, we don't speak to our customers. We let them ring us. So, right, we get an insurance, okay, and we do all the things to be able to get them. We kind of have a lost leader in the first year. We bring you in, put our arms around you, caress you, hug you, and go, you're now a customer, and now I'm going to ignore you.
Yeah.
And then we ignore you for the whole of the rest of the year. And what we've done in the meantime is said, you will actually auto-renew, won't you? Because, one, yes, it's effective, it's efficient, yes, it's cost effective and all that, but it gets us out making outbound calls to you because we don't want to pay for that. And they wonder why customers begin to feel more and more and more kind of away from people. However, what happens if you send a little newsletter, an email with some kind words? What happens if you picked up your telephone to your customer in the middle of the year and asked them a few things? And that you respond in the right way. So when the renewals that aren't automated, and a lot of people are actually, decreasing now and stopping doing automated emails. So in fact of going, I'm not agreeing to it happening. I want to make a choice at that time. Yeah. Well, if I'm looked after and cared for, I'll pick up the phone to you and go, I'm renewing. Yeah. So it could be used more effectively, but companies are scared out there to do that because the sales side, I completely agree, is done so badly in most places. And again, it goes back to the learning, learning and development, looking at the fact of what do you teach people on the phone? Do you teach them proper structured selling? Do you teach them the psychology of selling? Do you teach them and understand them about different data sets? So your guys on the phone are just not like, no, this is rubbish data. It's rubbish data. And all they do is burn through records. You know, we all go back to the old analogy. I've got someone hitting 10 decision makers an hour, hitting 1 sale an hour. I've got someone doing 20 decision makers and 1 sale an hour. So they're both converting 1 sale an hour, but one's really bad and one's really good. But, you know, I've seen in places where the guy doing 20 an hour with 1 sale is applauded. And that's kind of like, you're burning through data. Do you realize the company has to purchase that data? So your conversion is really small. But then you actually got managers who don't have the data knowledge, who basically are just hit through, you know, if you don't. And what you end up, I wrote a blog, was it 10 years ago, quite a detailed one at that time. And, you know, what I had seen in quite a number of places is just cherry picking. Well, that's not actually selling. Selling is about grabbing the attention, finding out about them, relationship building. Who, what, why, when, where. We can go through all the proper structure of it, giving them the desire and then closing them properly. Okay, going in and going, I've got a fantastic offer in your area at the moment. And the person going, boop, that's kind of not selling. That's a bunch of people on the telephone who see a bonus and go, I want that job because I believe I should earn that much. But they're not actual salespeople, and then they're not taught correctly. They then get on the phone, and then they wonder why they don't convert.
And I think just to kind of go back to your comment around not like educating people rather than training them, that's not something I've heard before, but I really like it, and I'm probably going to steal that now. I'm not going to lie.
No, steal it, please. I stole it from MBA, so fine.
It takes me back to when I was, you know, I worked for quite a while as a volunteer police officer. And we'd do traffic stops, and you know, like there'd be a speed limit. Some people would be ever so slightly over it, and you'd have a certain amount of discretion. You know, you'd have, you know, within 10% of the speed limit, but like speeding is an absolute offence, right? So if you're caught doing 31 mile an hour, you can be prosecuted for 31 mile an hour. But you know, when we pull those people over, part of that conversation was about building up rapport with the general public, and nobody wants, from the police side of things, nobody wants people to view them as being this heavy-handed approach who just want to lock everybody up and fine everyone. And that's not what the police, you know, nobody benefits from that situation. No. So we'd actually call it that. We'd actually call it educating the customers. And we'd talk to them about, you know, you realise what the speed was. No, I didn't know what the speed was. So actually you're driving a 1.5 ton death trap and you don't know what the speed limit is. Did you actually know it? What do you think the consequences are? Have you seen the road conditions? And once you talk them through it, you'd actually find that quite a lot of people would actually, their eyes would open. They'd be like, actually, I've had a really common sense conversation with somebody. You'd probably have more impact than if you just find them, because then they become disgruntled with you. And actually you've managed to get to your end goal, which is stopping them speeding, even if it is just for a length of time. Stopping it is better than not having the conversation.
The English language, or any language in the world, they're all beautiful. And the art of communication is absolutely amazing. And you can influence any situation in the right way if you use the right terminology. I'll go back. This is a bit of a silly aside, okay? So I was in school, and we had a school bully that used to pick on me and kick me under the desk and, you know, just stupid things like this. We were about like, what?
It wasn't the teacher, was it?
No. I won't mention her name, because weirdly, after all this happened, we actually became good friends, and she was actually really nice. But she just was one of these people who liked to throw her weight around in school, and, you know, and she was like that. And I remember going out on the field one day, and you know, when years ago, kids would surround you in the school and just go, fight, 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 fight. Anyway, got surrounded by all of these people, and I kind of looked forward, and there she was standing there. And I'm kind of like, oh, crap. I'm not, I've never thought in my life, you know, I'm not having that. And she kind of started coming towards me. So I put my hands behind my back and I just said to her, do you actually, you know, really want to do this? And I said, you know, we're in front of most of the school. I said, and I'm going to stand here and I'm going to let you beat the crap out of me because I can, and I have the power over you by able to do that. I said, so if you're going to do it, you're the one who's going to look bad. I'm not going to. Might be taken to hospital. I'm a bit damaged, but you know. And anyway, she didn't. She stopped, which helped me in years to come because I told the story on the other one to do with someone pulling a knife on me on the steps of St. David's Concert Hall. And I got that person to walk away. If you're in a position, at all times, you should think carefully about what you speak and think of the person that you're speaking to. And you can influence any conversation to be able to turn things to maybe how you want the conversation to go. It is an art form. So these people on the telephone who are getting on the phone and just basically phone call after phone call, and they're just going through it, is they're not going to sell anything. If you go through to someone and actually one sound as though you're interested, and maybe listen to what the other person says instead of getting on the phone and just going blah. Listen to their tone first, respond to it in the right way, talk to them, have a conversation. I mean, one of the best, oh God, and I'm gonna, was it a guy who I used to know, and he used to do energy sales, and I tell the story over the years because it was just wonderful. I listened to a call. I was the client, and well, no, I was a contractor and consultant for British Gas at the time, and I was going onto the sites of people like the Listening Company, BPS Teleperformance, and Sitel. And this one guy, he talked to this lady, and he just said to her, "That bird in the background." He said, "Could it be a cockatoo?" And she went, "Yes, it is." They spoke about her two birds for the next 5-10 minutes. Then she said, "Why are you there?" He went into all his spiel, and she just went, "Oh, I think you're marvelous. Absolutely, I come over to you because if they're all like you there," and that's the point, is that from the minute you speak to someone for the first time, it's not you they're talking to, it's your company they're talking to. So everything that you say or do and how you sound implicates the brand. Yeah. So if you're bored and indifferent, why would you trust you?
So I think, I would definitely agree with everything that you've said there, to be honest. And I remember, very quickly, and we've got a couple of minutes left, but I remember leaving the contact center environment and moving into retail in a leadership position. And the training and education that I'd had in the contact center world really set me apart in the retail world, because I knew how to speak to customers. I understood that behavior breeds behavior. Some words should be avoided. Some words should be definitely accentuated, and that you could really influence that conversation. All I was doing was changing. I was having the conversation over the phone for having a conversation face to face, which gave me even more power over that conversation in person. So the one thing I want to ask before we kind of draw this to a close, and I could probably talk for the next 2 hours and still be going strong. Unfortunately, viewership drops off after half an hour, so we'll cut it there. But my question to you, Marianne, would be for other leaders in the outbound sector. There's a lot of BPOs that kind of follow what I do, and there's a lot of BPOs out in South Africa and whatever popping up all over the place. So for those leaders that are looking at setting up an outbound operation, or they've maybe got a small one right now, what would be your top advice? Maybe your top 2 things that you would say to them to consider as part of their outbound strategy?
Come and talk to me. I think carefully. They need to understand why they're doing it. If they're just doing it to, I don't know, make lots of money, because they perceive that they're going to, especially with risk campaigns, actually think very, very carefully of what you're doing it. I think it's a difficult one to answer, because I would need to understand why they want to go into outbound, because there are many reasons people do. I went into outbound, and weirdly we do inbound as well, but because I find it exciting what you can actually do with it. There's a lot of people out there, and a lot of the offshore companies are doing it just for vast amounts of seats, because it only costs about, what, 10 or 11 pounds, which means they can undercut everyone in the UK, which means that the risk campaigns may work out there where they don't work as well over here. So it's totally according to why they're doing it. But get a blinking good trainer who actually really understands what they're talking about. Definitely look at it from learning, development, and education, and coaching, constantly coaching. But one of the biggest things would be choose your right team managers and operations managers, understand their knowledge of outbound in the right way, because all you're going to get otherwise is buying huge amounts of data and actually transing the data. But again, it's according to what they want to do. If they want to do that and buy cheap data, I don't know.
It sounds like, if I'm going to summarize that a little bit, it sounds like understand why you're in business, understand what your brand's about, what your culture's about in the business, and make sure that that fits with what you're trying to do. Lead by staff development and coaching and feedback, and make sure that that's a strong part of, if not the rock foundations of what you're doing.
Can I add something into that, Paul?
Yeah, of course.
Don't just say you do, because I know people out there. There's absolutely wonderful people out there who work very hard at it and do very well, and I love you for that. But there are people out there who mask behind and say they are absolutely great at this. I see their websites. I've seen, the stuff out there, and I've been into many companies over the years, and I see what's done behind the scenes at times, and they don't do that. I think this is the difference. Someone said, what makes you different from other companies? Absolutely, truly, that we put our heart and soul into what we do. And that, whether that's me or any of the other management team, rolling our sleeves up and doing stuff ourselves, because we are that passionate about people being educated in the right way and developed, then do it. Yeah. Don't tell everyone you're absolutely fantastic when we know you're not.
Yeah, I think from my experience, it's about taking that short-term pain in order to make sure you have the long-term gain with your people. And if you've never taken that risk and gone through that short-term pain to see the outcome results, you'll never appreciate how much benefit you can actually get from doing that. And that for me is key to any real leadership position, is understanding what makes your team tick and putting the time in to make them work in a way that suits them and the business together, finding that balance. Fantastic. It's been great to chat with you, Marianne. I'm going to have to draw to a close there, but it's been great to speak to you. We'll have to do it again sometime. We'll definitely pick up around another subject in the new year sometime. If I don't speak to you before, have a fantastic Christmas. And same to all you guys watching. I'm still not going to commit to doing an episode next week. You'll have to watch this space. We'll see. But if not, look forward to seeing all the viewers again this time next year. On a Thursday, that is. Take care. Thanks for coming along, Marianne. Bye-bye.
Bye.